Hi, everyone. Good evening, and we are very happy to have everyone tuning in for today's session, which we're going to be discussing about professional career. It's a very interesting topic, and I'm here to learn from Faith and everyone, and hope everyone is here for the same reason. So we're having, but before we go on, anyone who's just joined for today, feel free to introduce yourself. We want to hear from you. We want to know who you are. So please speak, say something, say hi, so that we know that we are together. And please put on your camera if you're not driving, if you're somewhere that you feel like you can put on your camera. Would like to see you. Thank you. Anyone who wants to introduce his or herself? Anyone who is new before we move on?
Or they can just introduce themselves in the chat if they're
that
shy.
would be good too. Yeah. Okay.
Hi, I'm Armel.
Hey, Amel. Pleasure
Hi.
to meet you, even though we can't see you.
Yeah, my camera's not working right now.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. Okay.
Hi, I'm Amina.
Oh, thank you. Would you mind if you tell us where you're from, what you do, so I wanna know you better, like at an introduction? Yeah.
I'm from Westford, originally from Congo, and I am a cosmetology student.
Okay.
Well,
great.
welcome.
Welcome, Mina.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's go on. So we have, as I told you, gonna be discussing about professional career, and we have a very great speaker today, and I'm so excited. She's called Faith, for those who joined soon, before they have seen her. So she's Faith Douglas, and she's a recruiter from Browns in Lewiston, and they're very exciting things. Like, she's been a recruiter for 20 years. I was like, what? Yeah, so that's a very long time in this career. So I think she's got a lot of package to give to us tonight. And I think we should be here to learn, and it's a great thing. So from what I've made the research, I don't know more about the company that she's working from, but it's a healthcare company dedicated to raising the standard of healthcare. So she's gonna take us throughout the journey, the recruiting processes here in US, like employment in USA in general, the CVs, the survey, the resumes, all those kind of stuff, so that we can be good candidates for any employment, any career they want to be participating in. So that's Faith Douglas. I know she's gonna be talking about a lot of things that I wanted to hear from her, so that we can really learn from her today. So let me give the floor to Faith so she can take it over and teach us for today's session. Douglas, Faith, welcome.
Thank you. What a wonderful introduction. Thank you, everybody. So I did say, I think a couple times during the call, that I am extending my vacation in Georgia now, probably by another week, because if you're going to do all the things to leave Maine, right, you might as well stay as long as you possible. I actually Lewiston, Auburn, but my second home is Atlanta, Georgia. Two very different places to live, as if anyone's been to Georgia. Has anyone in the room been to Georgia before, Atlanta? No, or Georgia? Yes, so definitely different, and I respect both. And I started actually my HR career here. So I'm sitting in the office of one of my coworkers that I worked with maybe 20 years ago. So that's how long my friendship has been with a lot of my friends down here. We've been recruiters a long time, and I'm taking over their office now. So I wanted to, when I was invited to speak, I was so excited, but I also was like, what can I say or talk about that you probably haven't heard? I mean, I feel like if anybody who has done more deeper dive, or really tried to learn as much as possible about the job employment world, there's a lot of reoccurring themes, right? Resumes, interviews, my goodness, job offers. There's so much that, you know, you've probably experienced, and it's going to look different. And I said, well, what could I add to this conversation? So I wanted to create a presentation that was more interactive. So it's not just me putting you guys to sleep. So in this, I'm going to make it about kind of a two-way street. I'm going to give you information, but I also want you guys to ask, I'm going to ask you guys questions. You know, those who feel comfortable sharing their experiences, please do, because I think, you know, by sharing your experience and then me being able to answer your concerns, questions, that we can all learn from each other. Does that make sense? And let me go ahead and share my presentation. And the title of my presentation is Everything You Wanted to Know But Too Afraid to Ask. So this is like what my daughter calls the hot tea, right? Like the juicy, like the just, you know, what can I ask somebody that has worked in the industry for 20 years, but I really can't ask because, you know, I don't know them like that. So I want everybody to come to this presentation like they know me and they're not going to be afraid to ask anything. You know, so like in my, thank you, Eunice, for a wonderful introduction. I have been a recruiter. I've been in HR now for 20 years, and a majority of my experience has been healthcare. So working in hospitals, both in Atlanta and Maine. I've also done banking. I worked for TD Bank. I've worked at IDEX for over 5 years. I now work at Grand Rounds, and I'm going to give a big plug at the end of my presentation about Grand Rounds because it's a very special place to work. And you know, we're based out of San Francisco, but we are have a large presence office. I used to say office, but now a lot of us are just remote. So I just say we have a large presence of employees in Maine, and it's a great company. And I'm happy to be a resource to anybody who might be interested in opportunities at Grand Rounds.
Mhm.
So I want to get started and talk a little bit about, so I'll kind of give you guys an overview of why I chose these topics. One is the role of the hiring manager and recruiter. I think, you know, depending on where people are applying, you know, there's a lot of confusion nowadays. I can't imagine, like, if I'm new to, whether I'm new to the country, I'm new to just applying for work, like maybe I've been raising a family or I've been a student, or, you know, I'm just looking after years of working someplace. It can be a headache trying to find and navigate through the employment piece. And so I want to talk about, like, what does that mean when a recruiter calls you? What does that mean when you're talking to a hiring manager? I want to talk about the candidate experience. So often we get dressed up, we get our resumes ready, we make these interviews, and it's all about, impressing the company or who you're interviewing. And nowadays in 2021, it's about, we need you just as much as you need us. If I'm not doing my job and it does not feel good to go through the process, let's talk about, like, what does that look like? What is normal? What is uncomfortable? Let's have those conversations. The other thing is unconscious bias, which is a whole topic in itself. Unconscious bias, I'll go over what that means, but I know a lot of times people talk about, what does that mean to be a culture fit? What do I have to fit into? Everyone's talking about diversity, but what does diversity mean? And, in Maine, what is that? I'm looking around and, okay, everyone wants diversity, but nobody wants to do what they need to do to make it happen. So let's have that open conversation. And then we'll just end it with, just some chat about, any opportunity to, give you more information on how to better prepare yourself. I'm happy to share the best resources, and I created some for those. Okay, and like I said, it's very conversational. I want you guys to be able to, I'm going to leave some time at each topic for us to talk. Okay.
Right.
Excellent. So the first thing, I'm a recruiter for 20 years. Why have I been a recruiter for 20? I have no clue. It is a very tough job. A lot of, I was just talking about it with my friends today. We're like, we're busy all the time. Does everybody, and I, again, only share if you feel comfortable. Is there anybody, do a lot of people know what a recruiter does?
Actually, I don't. By the verb to recruit, of course, it's recruiting. But to me, I always wonder why companies will be recruiters. Because the whole thing is like, hey, why can't you just post the job opening somewhere and people could just apply? So why do companies need you guys?
Yes. Why do I, yes, exactly. And the role of the recruiter has evolved so much. Now, let's just talk about or what companies might have a recruiter and might not have a recruiter. So let's just say Eunice owns a cafe or a boutique, and she has a position, she needs a cook or a dishwasher or any of those positions. Eunice is not going to use a recruiter because Eunice might only have 5 employees, right? And she'll just be like, I'm going to post my role, I'm going to interview, I'm going to find this person, I'm going to hire them. I'm good, I'm going to do this. Now, what about a company like, let's say, Unum? Do you think Unum, every manager could do to find a candidate and bring and hire them? No, because when you're looking at bigger companies like your IDEX, Unum, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, any major company, even I'm trying to think, even like a Maine Medical Center. And again, I'm going to be speaking to the audience like a lot of the main references, but like I said, I will try to do better if someone might not know what Maine Medical is. But those companies, they all need recruiters because they hire a lot. If you were to ask me how many positions do I recruit for, that means I'm looking for I usually have about 40 positions I'm working on. That could mean 40 different positions. It could mean 40 positions that are the same. That means now let's just say I'm working on one position. I might have to interview 10 people or 5 people for that one position. So you can just imagine somebody who has a lot of employees, how much work goes into, reaching out, looking at applications, talking to candidates, and we'll talk about each of those things. But you're going to find in a lot of companies, especially probably companies over, I'll just say 200 people, you're going to find that there's typically a recruiter in place. Where you won't see the recruiters as much is when it is a very small company, or what we like to say in the States is a mom and dad company, meaning smaller, maybe a family business. With that, with the recruiter role, my job is to, look at, let's just say, I'm going to use you, Gael. So, am I pronouncing your name right, Gael or Gail? I want to make sure I'm not messing up my example.
It's Gael.
Gael, okay, perfect. Now, Gael, let's just say you're a production manager, right? I'll just say you're a production manager and you need 4 new employees. Now, me and you are going to talk. I'm going to be your recruiter assigned to you, and you're going to say, Faith, I need 4 new people, maybe 2 people on nights, 2 people on days. I'm going to work with you to make sure that you have people to interview. You do not have to look at the applications. You do not have to make the phone calls or do the first interview. I'm going to take that off your plate. So when I'm calling, I'm going to pick on, let's see, Amina. I just see Amina's name in front of me. Now, let's just say Amina applies for one of those positions, right? She's not going to know you exist, Gael, unless obviously it's a referral, something. She has no idea who's recruiting for this position. All she knows is she's getting a call from Faith or an email from me saying, hey, Amina, this is Faith at this company, and I'd love to talk to you about your application. I saw your information on LinkedIn. I saw it on Indeed. I got a referral. I'm going to be the person that represents the whole company to Amina. Now, Amina, she talks with me, we connect, I'm the one giving her the information about the company. I'm the one who's talking to her about, Amina, how's your, experience, your education, asking all those wonderful interview questions we've probably all answered too many times. Then if Amina does a great job, and I'm going to go ahead and then present Amina as a candidate to Gael. Does that make sense? Where Gael doesn't even know Amina exists until I get to share that profile. So I say that because there's a lot of confusion on, okay, well, if Amina talks to Faith and Faith doesn't do her job, or Faith doesn't get back to Amina, Gael might be expecting, there's no connection why she didn't get the job, because I'm the one having to make sure that, and make sure I'm not confusing you guys, I'm the one who has to make sure that Amina's profile gets to Gael. If I'm not doing my job, if I'm over here on vacation and then I come back and I'm not focused, it's very easy for people to fall through the cracks, right? Where'd my application go? Who do I talk to, and that's where there's a lot of frustration. And I can't see everybody on camera, but is anybody willing to give me not example, but anybody willing to raise their hand or do a chat to say, have they ever applied for a job and just felt really frustrated, like nobody's getting back to them? I've been there.
Yes. Yeah.
I've been there. I'm like, okay, I did everything you said, but I'm like, nobody's emailing me, nobody's calling me. I thought you needed employees. Well, that's where we're going to talk today about what that feels like. And as a recruiter, my job is to look at all the applications. It's about making it easier. So, and then I'm the one who's going to be, when I'm going to pick on you again, Amina, out there. I know you're on mute, but I'm going to be the one when Amina learns about the company. I'm going to be the one who not only just interviews Amina, but I'm going to be the one where she wants to know about how much does this position pay? What are the hours? Is it benefits, no benefits? Ask all those questions, because Amina might find out after talking to me that, okay, the shift is bad, the pay is bad. I don't, there's a lot of problems. It's just, there's no, let's just say, like, there's multiple issues with the job. It doesn't even mean it's a bad job. It's just not what Amina wanted, right? And so that way she's talking to me as a recruiter, and it's not, she can say, you know what, Faith, I don't think that this is a fit, but, if you get a role that is, during the day, or, working in this type of thing, then that's where the recruiter, and I do this all the time, I'm the one who says, you know what, this is not a great fit. I can see why you don't like it. This is too low of money. I'm going to go ahead and think about you for the next opportunity, because we're going to build that connection.
Mm-hmm.
So, and especially in healthcare, and a lot of roles, you're going to find that, just because you don't get this position, that connection you have with that recruiter, we need you. I need, I'm going to pick on you, Eunice. Like, Eunice, if you say no to this position, I want you to come back to me and hopefully go for another position, or I want to be able to call you up when I have something. The other thing I want to talk about is, now, when you talk about recruiters, you're talking about two different recruiters. Has anybody ever applied for a temp agency? Maybe Bonnie, Kelly, Manpower. I'm trying to think of what else. Robert Half. Gosh, there's so many of them. And anyone applied for a temp agency? Well, I'll assume someone out there has applied for a temp agency. There's temp agency recruiters. Now, they're not going to be for the company. So let's pick a company. Let's just say Grand Rounds. Now, Grand Rounds, I'm the recruiter for the company, but sometimes we need temporary employees. And I'll call up my friends in Portland at the agencies, and I'll say, like, okay, Rihanna, I need 10 employees. I need them to start next week. And they do their thing. And they're going to be recruiters for the agency. So you have agency recruiters, and then you have recruiters that actually work for the company in the bigger companies. So when you get those calls from, let's just say, a temp agency, you have to know sometimes those are not the recruiters that work for the company. They're like the middleman between me and the hiring managers for different roles. Does that make sense? I know I'm giving you a lot, but I think there's a lot of misconception of, like, when I send my application or resume out into, the universe, I pushed a click, who's looking at it and where does it go? A good recruiter is going to make sure that you have all the information, not only to be ready for, to make your decision if you want to interview, but when you do decide to interview, that you're not going into that interview not aware, like you're like, what am I interviewing for? This is very confusing. We are here to, like, get you ready. And a lot of times I sometimes have hard conversations with my candidates, the applicants. I might say, who else can I pick on? I see Armel in front of me. Armel. Now, let's just say Armel and I have a great conversation. I'm really excited to have Armel go for the interview process. Now, I look at Armel's resume and I'm seeing, you know what, I really enjoyed our conversation, but Armel, I'm seeing a lot of errors, and I don't want you to go into that interview not with a clean resume. And if I really like Armel, I'll say, Armel, please, if you could just resubmit your resume. Or let's just say, I'm going to pick on you again, Eunice, because I'm seeing you. Eunice, you did great, but you know what? Your examples were not strong. And I think you would be a great fit. But between now And when you interview, I really need you to think of some better examples about maybe how you've worked with a customer, how you've gone, how you've learned something new. And I'm not doing that to make that candidate feel bad, but I genuinely want that candidate to be successful. And a lot of times, a good recruiter will help you prep for that interview. It's not just like, okay, Eunice, because that's wasting Eunice's time and it's wasting my time. If I know that Eunice needs a little bit extra and I don't help her, point that out, so she has an opportunity to go in and do well with that manager. Does that make sense? Any questions? I do want to take a pause and make sure that you guys can ask me any questions about my role as a recruiter, or how recruiters are used. Ask away. And again, if you don't have questions right now, we can always save them for the end as well. Okay. I'll give it a little bit more time, but like I said, recruiters are going to be there. A lot of times you don't even know they're recruiters. They're just the first ones that reach out. And like I said, there are people who have a lot of experience. There are people who, sometimes there's recruiters, it can be very entry level. And it doesn't mean that they don't care. It's just maybe they're learning new about the role. I've had recruiters, especially in healthcare, I know a little bit about a lot. So I can recruit nurses, I could recruit doctors, I could recruit, my goodness, I don't want to say the environmental service, like janitors. I can recruit anything. I just recently had a job, when I worked at a water plant before this position, and I could literally talk to somebody all day about water pumps. Now, do I really care about water pumps? Do I understand water pumps? In the beginning, I didn't, but then through research and talking to people all day about water and sewer, I'm like, okay, now I can have this full conversation. And that's why I love being a recruiter, because you learn a little bit about a lot, right? I'm never going to be a doctor, but could I have a full-blown conversation with a doctor about their experience and why they might be looking to work at a hospital versus, oh my goodness, a hospital versus a doctor's office? Yes, I could. Does that make sense? Okay, good. So with that, we're going to go into the role of a hiring manager. Now, one of the things about the role of the hiring manager is that their goal is, and I'm going to pick on Gail for a minute, they want the best of the best. Now, if Gail has those 4 positions open, he doesn't want to look at 50 applications. He's busy. He's making up for the people who are not working, or the people who've left, or the people, it's busy. He just needs people, right? And he should be able to call up his recruiter, Faith, and say, Faith, I'm hurting over here. I need candidates. And I'm not going to send him 20. I'm not going to send him 20 people. I'm going to say, Gail, I just talked to, I talked to all of these candidates, and after talking to them, after interviewing them, after looking at their resumes, I'm going to send you the best of the best. So I send you 10 and you interview those 10, you make your hiring decision. We talk through it, you'll interview. And then that way you get to focus on people who want to make that amount of money, who want to work that schedule, who want to do those duties. Gael, as a hiring manager, shouldn't have somebody interviewing that doesn't want to work overnights, right? If he needs somebody for overnights and I send him somebody who wants to work 8 to 5, I've wasted his time. I've wasted the candidate's time. So that's kind of where the recruiter happens to help. Now in Maine and lots of places, not everybody has a recruiter, right? And so there's a lot of times you might get a call from the hiring manager and they just might have you come in for an interview, but then you'll find out after talking to them, maybe there is something that you didn't know about the role, right? Maybe they said it was a day position, but you didn't know that days meant coming there at 4 in the morning, right? And so, whether you're speaking with the hiring manager or the recruiter, it's really important for both either or to give you the information about the role. We don't want to waste people's times. The other thing about the hiring manager is they're the ones who really, and you didn't hear, I feel like I'm giving you guys all the secrets, but I could love a candidate I could say, I'm looking at Steve's name now. Now, Steve is my guy. I interviewed him. You know, I want him to succeed. I want him to get this role because I think he has everything it takes. Now, I present him to the manager and the manager chooses somebody else. At the end of the day, I can tell Gael, you know, all I want about like why I think Steve, but at the end of the day, Gael needs to know his position. He needs to know what his team is missing. He needs to know like, okay, he knows that job better than I do. I'm here to help, but he's there to make that decision. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Faith have a question in the chat. I can try to read it. It says, do the recruiters read all the submitted CVs, or is there like a software that selects some outstanding CVs?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in my world, I've always looked at all the CVs. Now, there's some times where I'll give you an example. Like I was on vacation. Today's my first day back, and I was on vacation, and I realized, oh my goodness, there was a job left open, and people got to apply for something that wasn't really open. For some reason, it could have been like an old link, right? It was in the internet atmosphere, and people were applying. So when I got in this morning, I looked and I sent everybody a letter saying, hey, I'm so sorry, this position's actually closed. So I didn't look at their application. But if they apply to a position that's truly open, yes, the recruiters, we look at all of them.
Right.
It doesn't mean all of them go to the hiring manager, but we look at, you know, we're the first look. Does that answer your question? Hopefully, let me know if it doesn't.
Yeah, that was from Sandy.
Wait, I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
That's Mohammed, by the way. Sorry, I joined a little late.
Oh, no problem.
Well, when we talk about sending out resumes, or with a lot of large companies, they do use some AI, artificial intelligence systems, where they have a lot of filtration of resumes and point out like specifically what job descriptions, and sometimes those could have some bias along the way, which is especially with the immigrants and folks that come with like names that are not the regular American names that people can't pronounce, right? And those definitely sometimes come with the unintended biases along the way as well.
That's a good.
Yeah, no, I would say that's a great call out. And one thing I will say about that is, Mohammed, is that I've been working in pretty large companies. Now, Mohammed, do you live in Maine or outside of Maine?
I'm from Lewiston, yes.
Okay, Lewiston. Okay, so that's okay. I just wanted to speak in Maine references for you. So when I think about the biggest companies in Maine, the IDEX, Unum, Hannaford's, my goodness, anything probably over 500 people, right? We don't, I mean, that would be a myth for us in Maine. We really don't. Even if, let's just say, even if I wanted to use that fancy software, and it's more work than possible, because I have to, let's just say I'm gonna put a filter in, right? I only want to speak to people with bachelor's degree, right? Now, if I do that and I make a mistake and I get audited, the price for my company and for my reputation, you know, for my performance is not worth it. So sometimes I think the most filtering I've ever done is saying, okay, you know what? I have so many applications. I'm only going to look at the first 100 because I just can't look at 500 applications. And then, you know, but I can't just say I only want to look at the first 50 when it's convenient for me. That might, in bigger companies, we have to set up hard, fast rules, because if I come back to, let's just say I'm working for a company that might have a filter, Mohammed, and they do audit us, and trust me, they do, because I've been part of audits and I've also audited the system. It's not worth the risk. And so it's just much easier to kind of flip through all of them. As a good recruiter can go through applications. I like to call it Netflix and applications. It's like a school teacher. We teach school teachers teach during the day and they grade papers at night. As recruiters, we look at applications. I can look at an application very quickly and say, like, okay, I see what I see. This looks good. This looks good. Okay, I'm gonna keep that moving and I'm going to decline that, And again, yes, there are definitely companies that have that bias. There are I'm not saying they're not, because there are, and we're going to talk a little bit about unconscious bias. But I can tell you the actual ATS systems, they're clunky, and we tend to just shut off the positions when they're a little bit out of control. And the other thing is, and we're going to go into that when we talk about candidate experience. You know, when we're looking at companies that, you know, have a passion for cultural ads versus cultural fit, and we'll talk more about that. You know, and this is
Awesome.
like, this is me sharing way too much, but sometimes the name of the last thing I look at, because I'm just so concentrated on, do they have the skill or do they not have the skill? You know, I'm looking at people like, you know, are they able to work nights? Or are they not? And then, you know, I could look at 100 applications and only have 3 that really meet and then I'll look up and I'll be like, oh, maybe it's a male, maybe it's a female, maybe it's somebody from out of state and state, you know, the name. And then again, just because I've been doing it a long time, you know, that's kind of how I'm sharing how I think. But again, I don't want to take away that there are people who are, you know, and we don't want to lose sight too, that how many people have been in companies where they know like that hiring manager just wants to hire their neighbor or their cousin. You know, they can talk all they want about hiring people, but it's not always fair. And, you know, we'll talk about that a little bit more too. All right, any questions about the hiring manager role? And the other thing is, I'm gonna do a recap about this as well. So, oops, sorry. So I just want to kind of recap this. Recruiter, me, finding, reviewing, evaluating candidates, managing the process. And I'm going back to managing the process. So if Gael wants to interview 100 people, and I'm like, no, you have 2 positions. We're not going to interview we're not going to interview 100 people, because I want to keep, as a recruiter, Gael on track. You know, he might say, you know what, I want to see 5 more. I want to see 10 more people. And I'm like, you know what, you only have 1 position. So let's keep them focused, right? And that's okay, because that's my job, is to help keep them focused. My job is to say no. Like if Gael wants to hire his son and he doesn't want to look at any applications, and I'm the recruiter that's going to say, no, we're not going to just hire your son. We're going to look at these applications and keep everything ethical and on par. Providing a positive candidate experience. That's both roles, hiring manager and the recruiter. But for me, like if people talk to me and work with me and they don't have a good experience, that I'm representing the company. And so instead of, I don't like Faith, it's very easy to say, I don't like Grand Rounds. Does that make sense? And then I'm also here to keep you updated. So and I think it's a big myth that when you don't hear from somebody, that you just wait and you just wait. But no, call the recruiter, email me. I mean, I'm a pretty modern recruiter. I even have some candidates text me and like, just checking in, you know, and that's okay. I set, you know, what I'm comfortable with. I will tell a candidate, call me, email me, email, text me. You know, it just depends on that relationship with each candidate. And it's not even about the relationship. Sometimes it's about how busy. I don't want everybody to call my cell phone if I have 40 positions. But if I have 5 positions, sometimes it's easier for me to say, just, you know, call my cell phone, email me, text me. So the recruiter should be able to let you know what the best way to, you know, do that check-in is. Again, with the hiring manager needs to know what they need, right? So if they aren't sure and they're hiring the wrong person, they're wasting everyone's time. And that's where it's important for them to know the needs. Providing that positive candidate experience, and then being clear about the role and expectations, so you don't start a job that you didn't want because nobody told you. And then also being welcoming, and you know, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So when I think about what's important to a candidate experience, oh, you know what? I think I did this wrong. Hold on. Bear with me. Candidate experience. So candidate experience, we talked a little bit about this in the beginning. And I want to talk about like why it's important. It's a two-way street. So when you think about buying something on Amazon, when you think about going to your favorite restaurant, do you expect, you know, some things to be easy? Do you expect things to be correct? Do you expect things to be enjoyable? most of the time, right? If it's food, you want it to be good, you know, nice and delicious. If it's a product, you want it to be, you know, what you ordered. The same thing goes for a job. Just because you're on the other end of that, meaning you're the one looking for the job, does not mean that you should not have an amazing experience. Even if you don't get the job, you should have a great experience. And I want to talk about why it matters. So when you think about a good experience, you know, the career site, when someone says, okay, I need you to apply for a role, you know, is it easy? Is it hard to understand? Does their website look like it's outdated? And again, not to put people down, because not everybody has the resources to have fancy career sites. But you also don't want to apply someplace that you're like, is this going to a legit source, or is my application going to be hacked, right? You have to keep, you know, you have to make sure that you're applying at reputable places that have reputable technology. The online job application. So we want you to apply for jobs, but how many times is it very hard? Do I attach my resume? Do I need a cover letter? Do I not need a cover letter? Does it matter which job I applied to? A lot of times you go to the websites and it's very confusing. So a good company should make it very clear. Sometimes it's very easy. Sometimes it's a little bit lengthy, but all companies that are legit are not going to ask you for, you know, I don't even like it nowadays. And I know some government jobs still do this, but most companies shouldn't even ask you, you know, how much money you want to get paid. You know, we can have those discussions. Not to say that that is a bad company, but a lot of times you don't want to put all of that personal information until you talk to somebody, and that's okay too. The interview process, when you have, actually, I'll go back, communication upon submitting the application and resume. Did you get an email back? Did it, how do you know it got to it actually was received? And most everybody should get a notification saying like, we've reviewed your resume. We'll, you know, let you know if you're fit. That's very important to the process. The interview process, if you are selected for an interview process, and we're going to talk a little bit about what that, I'm going to break that down a little bit more, you know, talking about, you know, every interaction that you have with that company. Was it professional? Was it enjoyable? Did you feel welcome? Did you get notifications? You know, if you didn't get the job, did somebody tell you, or did they ghost you? And I don't know, ghosting in this sense is like just applying and never hearing, and just it just poof, you never hear from anyone again. That's a terrible feeling. If you get the job offer, you know, does it seem like, you know, is it welcoming? Does it have all the information you need? And then we'll talk a little bit more about onboarding. So we're going to go, I'm sorry, I'm going backwards. So we're going to go through the interview process. Before I do, does anybody have any questions about what that means, the candidate experience? Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure I'm not, I'm talking fast because I'm excited, but I definitely want to make sure you guys get your questions answered. So when I think about what a good interview experience should be, is when you come in, whether nowadays we don't even have, not everybody is going into a building for interviews. A lot of them are virtual, but did you feel welcome? You know, I felt very welcome today when I came into the group. I felt, even before it started, I felt welcomed. Even before I was invited, I mean, I felt very just excited to be here. And that's the same thing. Like when you're coming into a company, are people excited to have you interview? Are you getting the information you need to be successful? You know, did they offer you water, or did they, you know, greet you professionally? Did they ask you, you know, if they don't know how to pronounce your name, did they make sure that instead of just pronouncing your name incorrectly, did they make an attempt to ask you? And those are very important as you're looking at companies. Efficiency, you know, but I like to think of also as time wasters. Now there's times where you've probably, I don't know, I can't see everybody's face, but I'm sure people have experienced interviews that have wasted their precious time. Anybody ever interviewed and you're like, thank you for wasting my sweet, precious time. I could have been doing 5 other things. Yes. So that's really important too. It's like, did they, I'm sorry? You just an amen, just one of those amens. Yes.
Oh yeah, I definitely
like,
agree
did I
with that
feel
one.
like,
It's Mohammed. I said I definitely agree.
yeah, it's terrible feeling like, okay, this could, yeah, because it makes you feel like, okay, why did you invite me here, or why did you schedule this if like, you know, it was inconvenient for the hiring manager, or you didn't have the right information, or you know, you drive across town in your, you know, ironed clothes, you get a babysitter, you know, you take time off of your work, and then it turns out to be a dud. So yeah, that's very important. Being timely. Now, I will say this as a recruiter, when people are late, life happens for us too, right? So when I'm late to interviews, a lot of people think, I don't want people to think I'm rude. You never know, I'm running late from another interview, or, and I can say all I want that I'm not going to be late, but people are people, right? And it's so easy to just like have one more thing or one more question. So, you know, I like to give my candidates grace. So when they forget or when they're late, not everyone does that. So you have to kind of know like what kind of, you know, who you're interviewing with. I think for the candidate, it's really important never to be late. And same thing with like, if I waste your time, if I'm making you wait like 10 minutes for an interview, that's not a good feeling. If I don't come, you know, and say like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm late, my car or something. If I'm just like disregarding your feelings, that's a terrible experience. Interview questions, and we all know, I mean, I hope everyone knows, and I don't want to assume, but interview questions are very important. If people are asking you interview questions that don't feel comfortable, that are not appropriate, and I'm happy to send people lists or share with the group what is appropriate, what's not, that's not a good sign. And we all know people will sometimes try to get away with it, like, oh, tell me more about, like, do you need help with childcare? Or like, are you able to, do you have a reliable car? Those are questions that they should not be asking. Sometimes they're slick though, and they will try to sneak it in, like, oh, Eunice, you remind me of somebody who might, you know, like, you know, there's just ways that people can be very slick to get more information, and that's not comfortable. So if you feel like you're walking away and you're like, oh, Mohammed, you know, tell me more about that name. Like, no, there's no need of that. Like, Mohammed's origin of his name is not going to make him a better nurse or a better, let's see, I'm trying to think of it. I can't even think of a job today, a better chef, right? You know, the origin of the name, you know, whether or not, you know, if it's something that is extremely important and it's legit, trust me, we will make sure that we ask it upon bringing you into the interview. And a lot of times I'll give you an example. It is not okay for me to ask if somebody has reliable transportation or has, you know, childcare, but it is okay for me to ask as a recruiter, like, can you work overnight shift? Can you work these hours?
So Faith, how a question. So how do you react in those kind of occasions where they ask you some questions that are not like weird in one way or another?
And sometimes you really do want that job and you really want to work there, but you know that person might be just not a great embassador. So you still want to answer the question, and you can say, let's just say somebody wants to know about reliable transportation. I'll say that, like, they want to know, do you have a car, or do you have, like, and you might say, I have never had any issues coming to work. And if you want to check my references, or if you have any questions about, you know, or you could just, you don't have to say check my references. You can just say, I've never had any problems with being to work on time. You don't have to say you have a car, you don't. You can just say that that's never been any issue with me and the roles that I've worked. Yeah. So you don't have to confirm or deny or answer it, but you can just say, like, that's not a problem.
Right.
But I'm, you know, or even to expand, like, childcare, like, I know that sometimes is hard because you know, and you could say, you know, I am very excited, as discussed, I'm feeling like the role is 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and I don't foresee any issues with being here. You don't have to mention one thing about a child or a sick parent or sick, or I don't know, anything that, you know, that could make people think like, oh, is she or he going to be reliable? You know, you stick to what the facts are. And it's that I'm aware of the shift and I'm very excited, and I don't have any concerns with getting here and being present. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And as a recruiter too, you'll find that like I don't ask those questions, but I don't like want my managers to ask. So if they submit notes and they're saying like, oh, I want to hire so and so, and I discussed the hours. I'm looking at Justine now, and Justine said that, you know, she has daycare and it's not a problem. I'm gonna go back to that manager and be like, what do you know this? Why did you know? Because that's my job, is to make sure that they're not doing asking silly questions like that. And then obviously the exit, you know, depending whether you're on a virtual call or in person, it's really important to like not someone to push you out the door or say like, okay, we'll call you. And like, did they check to make sure your questions were answered? Did they wrap up, what the next steps are? Or do you really feel pushed out the door like a cattle call? I guess that's like, cattle call. I know that's slang, but that's like when you herd cattle and you're like, go, go, go. Like we don't want to feel like that in an interview. Any questions about the interview process? Okay, great. And you're like, okay, why, Faith, why is this all important? It's because, with the economy and where we're going, I mean, even with COVID, everybody's hiring, everybody. And, a lot of these red flags that you can find in the interview process and in the to save you a lot of time, a lot of heartbreak, save you some money, because spend so much, you don't want to be in the wrong opportunity. So, and then the right opportunity comes along and you missed that because you went for that role that you knew kind of was a little shady, treated you a little poorly, didn't make you feel that great. Pay attention to the signs, because you can work at, a lot of us have the ability to, with the skills we have to not, and again, even everybody, I would say even your most entry level position, you have so many choices, so please, please, please make sure that that the candidate experience is very important. It's a two-way street. And if you're ever worried, I'm going to give you guys my contact information, and I'm happy to talk through any situation with you and give you any advice. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't even know how I'm doing. The other thing is how many people, and I know I can't see everybody, but I'm oh my gosh, I'm going so late. How many people have heard of Glassdoor and Indeed? Yes. So, you do the research on the companies. You're there to make sure that oh, I want to work at we'll just say Hannaford's, but I'm reading all of these things, what to look out for or how to be really successful in the interview. That's going to also help prep you for, do I want to apply there or do I want to work there? Now you have to also take it for what it's worth. If you're an angry employee and you write an angry review, doesn't mean it's a terrible place to work, but it gives you some insight to the people who are really happy to work there and people who might have some issues. You kind of get as much information. You take the information from where it comes. All right. I feel like I have now. What's my time left? I want to make sure. 4 more minutes. Okay. We guys might have to invite me back. Because I'll do unconscious bias as separate, and especially with Mohammed, we talked a little bit about what that might mean. When it's talking about like, oh my goodness, do I feel like this company is truly going to value the diversity piece? So I want to go ahead and just open it up to the group, and I hope you do invite me back one day, and I'll finish the rest of the slides. I didn't realize I was going to be so passionate about the first couple of topics. Any questions that I can answer for you?
Yes, you do have a couple questions in the chat, actually.
Yeah.
So let me. So there was a question about.
I can ask.
Yes, please go ahead.
So what question should we not ask during an interview?
Yeah, that's great. So again, and is your name Belis? Is it? I don't want to say it wrong. Belse?
Yes.
So it's going to come down to, did you speak to a recruiter or hiring manager, both? Now, let's just say you're interviewing at Grand Rounds. You're going to be talking to me and I'm the recruiter. So I want you to ask questions about, can you tell me the pay for this position? This is a great question now that's really important, is working remote. Some people don't want to go back to an office, and
Right.
some people don't mind office or not office. So you want to find that out beforehand, right? So you're not wasting anyone's time. If you have questions about the shift, ask all of those questions before you interview. But if you don't have a pre-interview with the recruiter, it's okay to ask the hiring manager. It's all going to come down to, in the experience that you have, are you talking to two people or are you talking to one? If you're talking to two people, I always say try to use the recruiter as much as possible to ask about benefits and all of those things. And the hiring manager is really good for asking about like the responsibilities of the role, talking about like the success, like how do I know I'm doing a good job? They're going to be able to answer those questions.
Okay, so I have a quick question for you. So as a recruiter, do you have a couple of tips, I don't know, one or two tips of how a candidate should fill out the application, or maybe how they should write their resume, to the point that, what as you, because you said that sometimes you have 100 applications in front of you, and you're like, okay, and you sometimes many recruiters don't go through all of them. But what do you do to make your resume, your application to stand out?
Yeah.
So what do you do?
Yeah, so I will share. A lot of people ask me, Faith, my resume is so long. I'm going back 10, 15 years. Is that bad? And I say, no, it's not bad. We used to think like 2-page resumes or 1-page resumes were the best, because when people went to job fairs, we use paper, but now everything is electronic. So if you have a long resume, that's great. I would say stay away from putting too much information on there that you don't feel like is of any benefit. So sometimes I read resumes and people will talk, like they might say, oh, I wish I had an example, but they might say, okay, trying to think of a role, like administrative assistant will say, I answer the phones, I check the mail, and they'll have all of these wonderful things that they do in much more detail than I'm giving. But then they'll put in there, like, I'm cheerful and I'm helpful. Well, you might think you're cheerful and you're helpful, but that's, as a recruiter, that doesn't help me understand if you have experience for the job. If I call you, which I hope to, I'm gonna learn through the interview process, more of the attributes of your personality. Does that make sense? So when I'm doing resumes for either myself or other people, I try to just stick to the facts. Like, what is this role that I'm doing? Any awards, anything that I've done, if I speak a second language or multiple languages, that's important. If I'm in school or I have gone to school, that's really important. Even if you've not finished school, it's great to show like that, you're very experiences. Try to stick to the facts. People could say, well, that's your interpretation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
I love to travel is very interesting about that person, but it's not going to help me determine if that person is going to be the best fit. Unless you're applying for a travel position. You might say, instead of I love to travel, travel is an important part of this role, and I am very well traveled and have, worked, tie it back to why you're mentioning that.
So I have also another question on the job thing. And as a recruiter, let's say in the 5 to 10 years to come, what are the jobs, in your opinion, that you see that are going to be in too much demand? And what are the jobs that you think that are going to start to disappear? I think with the rise of AI, and some people now talking about robots and all those kind of things. And also technology, you cannot ignore the fact of technology, also the fact that we are going to be starting to work from home, Zoom, all those kind of things. So what are the types of jobs that you see that are going to be in demand in the future? And what are the types of jobs that are going to start to disappear in the future?
And I think sometimes it's not about, one, if I have a 15-year-old, and if they ask, you know, when I'm talking to my other friends with teenagers and we're talking about, you know, you want your child, you know, maybe if you don't have children, maybe you want your siblings, or, you know, you want people to feel like when they're going, they need to go out in the world. You want people to make money, right? Because some people don't care about money, and that's beautiful. Like they want to heal the world and do great things, and we need people like that. But I want my daughter to make money, because I don't want to pay her bills the rest of my life. So I need my daughter. And one role that I always come back to that's so important is facilities. Now I've been a manager for facilities, and it is, now when I talk about facilities, I'm talking about people who are doing heating and air conditioning, who are doing plumbing, electrician, they're doing, my goodness, anything, a lot of the not so much the manufacturing, but the people behind the scenes making sure that machine stays on. That position, so many, especially in Maine, if you could push people into those roles, so there's such a shortage and such a need that they're the ones that are going to be okay, they're going to have the jobs, they're going to be able to maybe get the scholarships to even get the education, they're going to get the sign-on bonuses. I had to spend my last year at IDEX, my hardest position to fill was not a position you know, that was technical. It was somebody who needed to do heating and air conditioning in one of our offices in California. And just to get him to like get in the door, I paid him $5,000 sign-on bonus, just to come in and again, not to shortchange his role because it's very important, but in this position, he's the one who goes into the company and makes sure that the air conditioning is working or the heating is working. And when he can't figure it out, you know what he does? He calls the company that owns the equipment and says, hey, the air's not working. And then he's with, you know, and so but you would think like, okay, well, that's not the reason why those positions are harder to fill, are because people are leaving those industries, right? Whether you're thinking internationally. So there's a lot of beauty in people rolling up their sleeves and be willing to do the trades. And a lot of them are just 2 years of education, which is very cool. And I think that we lose sight of that, but those are really important and hard to fill, and they do have a good return on investment when you go to school. I think customer service is always going to be there. And I mean, anything like we could talk about retail and all of those things. They're like, even though we live in the age of Amazon, we still like, I still look at the Targets and the Walmarts and all the other companies similar in size that are really hurting for employees. So I don't think anything's going away. I think you're going to look at what is going to be the best return on investment for what you're looking for. It's not always money. Some people truly want the flexibility of a good schedule. They truly want to be able to work from home. They want to be in a company that makes them feel good every day. And sometimes that's, you know, making okay money. Sometimes it's making a lot of money. But I think as somebody, and I love economics, so I could talk about this all day. I think healthcare sometimes can be a little saturated. A lot of times people just want to go into nursing because especially anybody, I'm over 40, but anybody who's probably over 30 can, you know, remember the time where we had no healthcare professionals and it was scrambling. That comes and goes, right? So sometimes it's very easy and high demand for nursing, and other times you could go through all the education you want and it's very hard to get a role that you want at, you know, whether Maine Medical or PMMC, and the next thing you know, you don't get to practice being a nurse unless you do something drastic like work overnights, or, you know, maybe only work in you know, an industry you were not interested in. So it's always good to like follow your passions and then from there determine what's important to you. That answers.
Good. Yes, it does. And I do have another question in the chat for you from our friend Theo. He's asking, so what is the best way of answering a recruiter when they ask, where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years? And this is a question that you guys really like to ask in the interviews.
I hate that question, first of all. Hate it. I don't know where I'm going to be in the next 15 minutes, but I know that that's a very popular question. And, you know, and I think, you know, it's okay to answer it like, you know, this is what they don't want to hear, is that like if you're applying for, let's just say you're applying for a hotel manager, right? And they're gonna, in your interview, they're gonna like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? They want to hear that you want to grow in this amazing hotel or hospitality industry. They don't want to hear that secretly you're working on getting your degree in, technology so you can be a cybersecurity analyst, right? Because they don't, that's, so I always say meet that question halfway, a little truth, maybe a little lie. And that's just me being real with you guys. In 5 years, I really want to see myself advancing in, a profession, whatever the profession is, and I'm continually looking to learn. For those who are in school, I'm continually looking to learn and broaden my horizons, but if you truly are, know where you want to be in 5 years, please share that. I'm just saying for the people who don't know, like myself, my thing would be is I want to be in a company where that's thriving, and I'm able to be challenged. I'm able to, grow within that company. Does that make sense? Keep it a little bit like.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Well,
Yes,
sometimes
please.
well, you can honestly say that you hope to grow both professionally and personally, whether that is in this company or another company in the next 15 years. Sometimes those employments may never last. That you never know. So just, I think as short as saying I'm looking to grow both professionally and personally moving forward could definitely answer that.
Yes, and the great thing about that question is what they're listening for is, are you being personable? Are you being positive? Are you being, that's where, those are the questions that I call the passion questions. They want to see you light up, right? If you're talking about like, I'm a nurse, but I really want to be a nurse manager, but you look like you're sad and that you're dead inside, like you're sad and like you're like, I want to be a nurse manager. That doesn't convince them. They want to see the passion in your voice or your eyes about like, yes, I am worked so hard to get here as a nurse. And, all I can do is work really hard to, continue that passion and be a nurse manager or a specialist, things like that. So that's what they're listening for is, does that person seem like they really want to grow as, I have a coworker, I shouldn't say this, but I do have somebody I know, and they don't ever want to do anything else. So sometimes I have to say, maybe you should just say like you want to grow in your role, because sometimes it's hard to, you could love your job, but at the end of the day, companies want you to always be learning, always be willing to take on more. Does that make sense?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. We did have another question that popped up in the chat. It was, what is the best practice for denying an applicant? Points in your response.
Yeah, so for us to decline the applicant, I always think like, honesty is important, but not to the point where it's hurtful. So if I have a candidate that does not do well on their interview, my intentions are not to hurt their feelings. I'll usually like to let them know that, thank you for your time. You always want to thank people for their time because they did give up time to go through the process. At this time, we had stronger candidates. If you do decide to go with another candidate, if you're still looking at other candidates and that person just was not strong enough, I like to tell people that, we enjoyed your interview, but at this time we are looking for somebody with, it could be a couple of things. It could be more experience, somebody who, had a little bit stronger, education. What is not okay is giving somebody a decline and saying something that could really crush their spirits. Does that make sense?
Can I also add to that?
Yes.
Well, I also have been part of, hiring team as a hiring manager, where sometimes you have a candidate that comes in, and sometimes you're looking for a person that could work 3 to 5, let's say 8 to 5, and that person might have some issues on committing to that specific time. That sometimes they have a childcare problem, transportation problem, if they don't have the means to get there. Of course, the time that needs to be done is 8 to 5. You could say, hey, we're looking for somebody that can commit to this time and this time, and we understand that you have you could have some transportation issue at this time. You could have some childcare issues. So if you can't fulfill at that time, that specifically we're looking for somebody that can be here to do the job during this time, and those usually are very understandable as well.
But Mohammed, I wouldn't. The only thing is what I had mentioned in the group I think earlier before you jumped on was that I try to avoid using anything personal like childcare or either childcare or my goodness, or transportation, because I don't want someone walking away feeling like, oh, if I didn't have my children, or if I just had a car, or I didn't have to carpool, that this dream could have happened for me. So I try to, let's just say, keep it very simple, like, you know, ideally I know this position is, let's just say 11 to 7, and you mentioned that working after 3 is not going to work, so you know this is not the right opportunity. But try to just stick to the facts of this is the job, this is what you can do, but try to leave out anything personal, even if they volunteer, because we do want people to feel like they can bring their whole selves to work. But what you don't want to try to get yourself in a sticky situation where someone could walk away from that situation. Well, I just, you know, all they heard was, I have kids, I don't have reliable daycare or car, or, you know, I was a sick parent, anything like that. So just to kind of protect yourself as people who might be giving this declines in the future.
Absolutely, and it's just a matter of, like I said, wording to the right terms and directly, yeah.
Last thing, Faith, we just need you to share your contact information. Some people want to reach out to you. I know you were plugging the Grand Rounds, but definitely to share your contact information, LinkedIn, anything.
Yeah, so LinkedIn, this slide you see right now was more of us to like talk about how to connect with hiring managers and recruiters. You know, obviously you don't want to reach out to a recruiter on Facebook. You know, Twitter, maybe. LinkedIn is always the best way. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm happy to share my email, or you can share it for me. If anyone wants to connect with me, you can give you free, like faith.douglas@grandrounds.com, but LinkedIn is great. And we are hiring right now. We're taking a little bit of pause to look at the hours that we need, but I'm always happy to talk about opportunities. And like I said, I have been a recruiter in for 20 years, and I feel like I know a little bit of everybody in Maine. So I'm always happy to be a connector and help people connect with the right people for what they're looking for.
Well, I kind of joined in late. Can I introduce myself real quick? And maybe I'm also looking for networking as well, if I'm allowed to.
Yeah, go ahead.
You are.
Well, my name is Mohammed Awil, and I'm from the Lewiston urban area. I've been in the management for the past 5 years, and I've recently started a agency that will be focusing on specifically to the new Mainers and the people of color in Maine. We're called the Community Staffing Partners. We're actually involved with the LA Metro Chambers, and I do love to connect with folks around here to just network, to professionally grow as a individually grow, and just kind of learn from each other. I would love to connect each of you. And I will also drop my contact information in the chat.
Great, thank you.
It is a pleasure to meet you, Mohammed. So I have heard about the work that you guys do. So thank you so much for what you're doing. And I'm looking forward to meet and discuss more. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I will drop my email in there as well. I'd love to hear a few folks drop in.
And thank you so much, Faith. Thank you so much for being gracious. And I think there were other topics that we really wanted to touch on, but maybe we're going to invite you back next time. I think the unconscious bias, that was really a big thing, and diversity, it's a big thing, because this is an immigrant group. It's an immigrant club, and some of the issues and the things that we face. So I think it all centers around diversity problem and issues. So that's why we're going to invite you back just specifically for that.
Please do. And like I said, I know I didn't think I was going to have enough to talk about, yet here I am. I didn't get to even cover everything. So yes, I'll be ready if you guys invite me back. And I do just want to, again, if you guys have any questions, any concerns about, going through interview or application process, use me. I'm part of the community, and there's nothing more that's important to me than making sure people have somebody who's going to help either advocate for them or, you know, be their resource to make sure that they have somebody to, you know, ask those questions to. And if you can't tell, I'm not going to, you know, I'm going to be as real as possible. I definitely don't want to let anyone feel like they don't have the right, like feel uncomfortable asking me. So I want to be there for y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Faith.
Thank you. Sorry I went over. I'm chatty Cathy.
No,
Thank
no,
you.
no. Please don't be sorry. So the rest of the team, please, if you could give me 10 minutes while we wrap up today's event, guys. Please give me 10 minutes. I'm going to do one last thing, and I promise you it won't take more than 10 minutes. So I'm going to ask Eunice to share groups. But before, while she's pulling out the groups, because what we're going to do next, so we're going to put out a slide about the groups, the small groups that we have, and we want every one of you guys to really commit to one of the groups, because we want to have small groups, small mentorship groups, and those groups are going to be meeting on maybe on Zoom, or maybe have groups like on Facebook, just to stay in touch. And those small groups also are going to be assigned to mentors that are going to be coming and help everybody in the group. And just in the whole thing, the purpose of all this is just to grow together professionally and personally. But before, while Eunice is doing that, I have some good news, and I'm going to let Dylan share with you some good news for everybody who's an immigrant and he's here in the US. Dylan, please.
Yeah, thank you. So just want to talk about a program, it's deeply needed. We have, immigrants coming in that have credentialing from another country, their country from origin, that they're taking into the US that's not allowing them to keep that credentialing, and it's allowing them to be able to retake a test and redo everything that you did in your home country. It's not fair. You went through the same credentialing, you went through the same learning that we've all went through. So there's no need to go ahead and redo that. So just kind of getting a pulse feel for anybody in the Wilson-Auburn region, and even Portland, Westbrook, anywhere around there that has credentialing in their home country that really needs that, went through the process already, or just hasn't been through the process because they don't want to go through school again.
Right.
So we can save that. So we're really trying to get a pulse of what that looks like and what the need is, because it's deeply needed, but I need to know how much, because there is a cost per student, and we don't want that covered by the student themselves. We want the business covering that for employment. And so that's what we're really working with, is employers to pay for credentials to be able to move from your country to the US. So in the chat, you don't have to speak up. I don't want everybody to go ahead and jump right now, but in the chat, if you do have a credentialing outside of the country and it's not transformed to the US as of right now, definitely go ahead and shoot in the chat, just to give your name and what your credential is, or what does it relate to.
Yes, guys. So I think this is a huge opportunity for all of us, because I remember some of us came here in the U.S. with college degrees, and actually, even I know even some others with master's degrees. But you had to redo the whole thing to get a credential here. So this is a huge thing where this program is going to be helping us to really have those credentials. Maybe somehow maybe converted to the American credential. So please, if there is this, if there is a need here, and if you guys know, I know that we also have a lot of other people that didn't join today, who have that as a need. So please chat, just say your name. And again, Dylan wants to know how many and what's the need that's out there.
Oh,
And
so I can't share my screen. I don't know why.
Dylan, Eunice can share her screen. Do you have to give her permission?
I did.
Oh yeah, I got it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
There it is.
Okay, guys. So while you putting in the chat, okay, so here we have, so we have this 4 small groups, okay, that we want you. So we want you guys to join one of the groups, or you can even join 2 of these groups, or even 3. So it's up to you. But the first group is going to be about business real estate entrepreneurship. So if you guys are here, and I know that some of you have already committed to the group. So if you have already committed to the groups, you don't have to recommit again to the groups. But if you are here and it's your first time, or you were here for the second or third time, but you haven't really committed, please, if you want to join the first group, business and real estate, please, what we can do right now, I don't know which best way we could do it. If you guys can shoot an email to those 2 emails, if you do want to join that group, or if you guys are here and want to pursue higher education or college or grad school, and you want more information, this and that, maybe you might want to join the group College and Education. And then we also have another group, Career Development. If you right now you are in the, in a specific career, but you want to grow or maybe climb the corporate ladder. And then we also have parenting and self-development. So this is for people that already moms and dads who have kids, and they feel like because of kids, maybe they, it's a little bit challenging to get back to school or work and this and that. So I think that there is a way also they can be together in a group and encourage each other and learn from each other. So these are the 4 groups. So if you really want to commit to any of these, please, and again, email to those, or maybe just put in the chat right now. We can write your name down. If you could write your name and which group you want to join, the 2 groups, and then we can write it down right now. Or if you want to do it later, please send an email. Because by sometime next week, we want to start to know who's in this group, who's in that group, and then start to connect the groups with mentors, and then and then the leaders of the group are going to start to, put the teams, the groups together and start the communication and education. So anything else, guys?
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I know I kind of jumped into the chat today, and I do like to follow up and actually have a conversation with you as well. But I would love to join that business and entrepreneurship group. If that is something that I'll be able to do, I would love to come and be part of that team.
Yes, you're welcome. We'll write you down. Please, do you mind shooting an email to?
I'll shoot you an email. Yes, I can definitely do that.
Yeah. Thank you, Mohammed. Okay.
Great.
Guys, if you are you preferring to shoot an email or writing in the chat? So
I think it would even be more simpler if, like you say, I'm joining this group in the chat, and we can, put you on the list. That would be
okay. Okay. And then
it's only for those who haven't done it yet, right?
Yes. So Steve, you have already committed to business and real estate. So you want one of the co-leaders. So we got you.
Okay.
So this is for the people that haven't yet committed. And Dylan, I think there is a question for you here. And okay, so you replied. Okay. Great.
And also there is a survey link in the chat for those people who haven't committed and, give us the information, aspiration, and all the stuff. So feel free to fill the survey as well.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Sandrine committing to must. Okay. No, actually, that's for you. That's for you, Dylan. So that's for you. There is Sandrine. Actually, she has a master's degree in law. actually from University of France. Yes, there were, you can join two groups. Dylan, did you get Sandrine's chat?
Yep, I got that. She did have
Okay.
a question. When you say committing, what does that imply?
Okay, so committing is just, because we want to put these groups together by aspirations, okay? We don't want to like be having these Zoom meetings and have everybody, join and talk about maybe business and entrepreneurship. And we might have people that are not interested in that, in those specific topics. So by committing is, hey, are you aspired to be an entrepreneur or pursuing a business, or do you currently just want to go to college and or even you want to even pursue a higher career? So by committing, I'm not saying that it's going to be more like maybe something that's going to be required from you, but it's more of like, hey, where do you what are your aspirations right now, and what do you want to work on going forward? And of course, minimum time, because the teams are going to be meeting and we're going to try to um, assign mentors to groups. So it's good if you at least going to commit at least an hour, an hour per month to your group, so that you can learn from others also, and also that others can learn from you. So it's not anything else. So we also, okay. Great, great. I think we are having chats coming in. So Eunice, are we getting the things in the chat? Great, great. Belize, or Grace?
Yes.
Do you, are you getting the information? Because I don't know what Eunice is right now.
I'm not seeing anything in the chat, but yes, Sandrine, you can be in two groups, like more than one group, yes.
Great, great, great. So keep those chats coming in, and please, we are going to be ending the meeting in the next 2 minutes. So right now I'm seeing, Dylan, are we going to be able to keep the chat after we leave the call?
Yep. I'll get
Okay.
the chat over to you right after the call.
Okay, great, great. That's great. So keep those chats coming. We are going to end the call in 2 minutes. And if you don't get the chance, please shoot an email to these contacts here. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be with all of you guys today, and hoping to keep learning from each other. And I'm wishing you very, very successful life, a life of purpose, and a life of impacting lives around you guys. So thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye, and see you next time.
Bye.